Welcome to CMOs Offscript. We're experts in healthcare marketing, and each week we tackle one topic with unfiltered advice you won't hear anywhere else. Let's jump in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to CMOs Offscript. We're super excited to be here today. We have Steve Tolle joining us. Welcome, Steve. Thanks for coming on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
So, Steve, jumping into telling us a little bit about where are you now? What are you doing now? What's your story?
So right now I'm in Ireland, in the west of Ireland, enjoying some beautiful soft rain, which is kind
that
of
was not what I was expecting.
Our summer day. So I'm Chief Technology and Product Officer for Ignite. We are a clinical trials interoperability company. So we are doing at scale what no one's been able to do so far, which is automate the movement of data needed for clinical trials that already exists in an electronic health record over to the electronic data capture system used by drug companies. It's actually fairly difficult to do because there are a lot of nuances, but we really benefit from the FHIR interoperability standard, and we're proving that FHIR has enormous value in reducing the amount of time it takes to get data moved over and increasing the accuracy of moving data and really improving the quality of life of the people doing clinical research, which is really important because what they do is critical to drug discovery. So it's a great little business. I found this company, small world story. I found this company 2 years ago. I had been a venture capital partner at a great firm in Boston and decided that I just wasn't a finance guy. You know, I spent a lot of time as a kid playing with Legos, so I like building things. Venture capital partners don't do that. They do really important work, but they don't build companies. They finance companies. It's different. And so I decided to go find a company to go help build. And the guy that was on the buying side of my last transaction, this guy from IBM, was advising Ignite. And he said, let's go talk to Steve. And they met with me. And I said, well, funny, I'm not going to do venture anymore, but I'd love to come help you. And that's how I landed at Ignite. And that's just amazing. A great little company.
Yeah, that's so cool. And Steve, I've had the pleasure of working with you as a marketing leader when, you were a part of that VC firm. And one of the things I loved the most about our interactions is that you truly understood the end-to-end marketing function as a product and technology leader. And sometimes that's so hard to find in other folks, like having that perspective and being able to go back and forth. And I'd love to, if you could share a little bit of how you view marketing's role, and especially if you want to dig into your current company, that would be interesting because it sounds like a highly technical company, and how whether marketing is playing a role right now in the company's growth and what you see as far as marketing's role in the bigger go-to-market.
Yeah, I had the privilege to have marketing report into me at Merge before we sold to IBM. And of course, when you're a publicly traded company, it also means you get to write the earnings call script every quarter, which was a nightmare. But anyway, I think for us at Ignite, we have a couple key things that we have to do. One is thought leadership. We're doing something that no one's really done at scale before. And we have to convince both the drug company sponsors and the hospital sites that this technology makes sense and has a sufficient ROI. So there's a ton of thought leadership you have to do around not just why this as a category makes sense, but that the technology works, that it is accurate, that it is something that complies with the regulations. There's a ton of thought leadership just to soften the market so that when our salespeople, make a call, someone's heard our name before. And then from a sales go-to-market point of view, I think the real value that we're doing here is not helping a salesperson target a potential buyer, though that's important. I think it's that whole, we still sell to hospitals. And in a hospital, the reality is everyone's empowered to say no, and no one's empowered to say yes. It's a team sport. selling something to a hospital is a team sport. And we've got to focus on the entire ecosystem of influencers in a sale. People who could block us, people who are our sponsors. And so the whole effort around the marketing campaigns that we're running is how do we circle a potential buyer to make sure that we get our message out consistently to everyone that's going to come into contact with that potential transaction. Because our salespeople are excellent at those one-on-one relationships. We got to make sure that we're not missing someone in the corner that's going to come and tackle us when we don't see them. So I think that's probably the biggest value of the work we're doing now. And of course, just branding. The brand work we're doing, we call it the squid. The brand work we're doing is a lot of fun. Just how do you conceptualize data going? It's like electricity. What we do is like showing electricity. It looks really easy and it looks really boring, but there's a lot that had to happen to make this work. And so, the imagery and the branding has been really fun to do here.
So Steve, one of the things that I love the call out to branding, because I think that is an undervalued, we all constantly are discussing how undervalued that is across the board by folks in the C-suite. So cheers to you for recognizing the importance of that. One of the things that we talk a lot about, in fact, we just talked about it probably, I think, in the last week or two, is the issue of noise, right? And you're in a very, very noisy market, right? And now you're telling me you're not selling to one buyer, you're having to sell to the entire suite of buyers and influencers across the hospital and health systems, right? And so how are you thinking about that? And how are you thinking about that through the lens of your marketing partners, your sales team, in terms of the ability to cut through the noise? What have you found to be successful?
Well, Laura has been very helpful in guiding us here, because with all of this AI generated content, we all start looking and sounding the same. So I think we've got to err on the side now of just being completely different and normal. I think that'll get people's attention more than anything else. And then for us, it's about consistency in messaging. We're very regulated. We're in a very regulated industry. It takes about 1,400 cycles to get a press release approved with a big drug company, right? So we got to work within the rules, but consistency in messaging, I think, is really important for us. And, what are we trying to get accomplished? How do we build a campaign from start to finish so we know that we're getting everything we need done? And we've been marketing to different segments, not just to buyers, but also to investors. We're a startup, so we've got venture capital investors. We're going through a fundraising round right now. So that whole messaging calendar and campaign has been incredibly important to us.
I think you guys have done a couple of things really well too. You have really good thought leaders in, as a part of your team, your core team, and they're out there presenting, writing, talking, and they've been empowered early on in the process, which is different than a lot of organizations at your size. It's hard to explain how important that is. Like, that's just been invaluable. Like, we have actual real journal content and we have people presenting all the time. And I think your business development team has done a really good job of maximizing conferences. And we were just talking last week on this podcast about how we thought after COVID conferences were like, we're done, and they're not. It turns out like that conferences are becoming more and more important this year, and your sales team has been absolutely brilliant at making those conferences impactful. And it's the partnership, I think, between sales and marketing at IgniteData has been really, really successful. Like, it's been a really lovely combination. So
yeah, for us, the momentum we're seeing, so just to put it in perspective, when I joined in 23 as an advisor in August, we had a couple sites doing pilots of the software. And, weren't doing a lot of business in terms of revenue. We've now got 25 really well-known academic medical centers around the world and more coming using the platform. We've got five or six large pharma companies using the platform. We've had incredibly fast growth, and it's been driven largely by word of mouth from site to site. So we got really lucky that we did our first pilot with University College London Hospital in London with AstraZeneca. That went really well. That got the attention of Memorial Sloan Kettering, a guy named Joe Lingfelder at MSK, who runs clinical research IT there. And they had been trying for years to figure out how to automate what we do. And we were admitted to this incubator, this iHub at MSK. That has been incredibly valuable to us because not only has MSK essentially standardized on our platform, but they've been talking to all of their peers. And having that,
as they do.
Having that kind of conversation, why did you pick them? What did you do before? How is it going? Like, that has been incredibly valuable to us to have those real world conversations. In addition to the advisors, like we have this guy named Matt who used to run a program at AstraZeneca trying to automate the movement of data from electronic health records to EDC systems. And he worked on this for a decade. And now he's running this industry consortium, and he's a huge thought leader in this space, and he's helping the industry set standards, which is critical. And then he's helping us with, publications and journal articles. And it's incredible the people that we have around the table. And then we did this AACI roundtable. I think it's the American Academy of Cancer Institutes. These are name brand hospitals. Mayo Clinic, MD Anderson, MSK, talking about working with us, and like really positively, unprompted. I've never seen anything like
that. That
this.
is the greatest gift.
Yeah,
that is the greatest gift.
It's such an example of using content, like of the thought leadership, the referential content, and being able to really let that speak for your company. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I think, I'm curious with the customers that you're talking about and some of the word of mouth, is it organic, or have you formalized it in a way where there's a customer advisory board and you've got these folks who are now, they feel a little bit bought in because they now can have some ownership in the product and vision?
A little bit of both. So we have, it started out, really just organic. And then as we hired our biz dev team, they started working to target these large, we focus on the large academic sites where 90% of clinical research gets done. And then those sites take us out to their community partners, right? We don't go the other way, which is a harder track to go, I think. And so we've been targeting these very large academic sites. And then, when we were talking to, like the Mayo Clinic, we said, you got to talk to the folks at MSK. And they know each other. And so being able to create those introductions was very beneficial. And then, of course, industry presentations. Their MSK and others are going out talking about what they've done and what they've studied, because they've done formal studies to show the impact that our solution has for them as a business. So that's been helpful. And then we do have a customer advisory panel we're pulling together. There are two of them, really. We have a voice of the customer panel for the product. As we do a new release, we're going to go change this. Tell us what you think. And then we have a more formal, business level advisory board as well that we've just pulled together.
Yeah, I think oftentimes that's where most folks, I think, have a really hard time with formalizing that process and that feedback loop. And I think that's where your expertise in product and technology come into play, is because as a product leader, part of your role is to close the feedback loop, right? And oftentimes in the marketing end, I'd say that one of the big gaps is some of the market feedback, because we have to facilitate it from all sorts of different channels. We have a hard time kind of closing it and circling back and bringing it back to the business and making it part of that, the outcomes.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've built a number of electronic medical record systems in my career, and doctors all count clicks, right? They always will, they always have. And we one time changed this piece of this product, and I think our customer service switchboard lit up like a Christmas tree. Like, people furious because we didn't have the right customer feedback in the product design loop in advance. And boy, we learned that lesson the hard way. So, I've been there, I've got the t-shirt to show for it. So I think that helped a little bit too.
So tell me, like, one of the things that's clearly really important in this, I mean, I love this idea of product and marketing and staying connected in that entire life cycle journey, but talk to me about how marketing can stay really closely connected and be a true strategic partner with the C-suite, particularly in the work that you're doing. How does that come to play? How does that show up for you? And in the organization you're in now or in organizations past, what's been most successful and impactful?
Yeah, I'm a fan of there are a few product management disciplines that get used here and there. I'm a fan of the pragmatic marketing discipline for product management, and sometimes it's also called the GE upstream downstream model. But it's where the line between product marketing and product management is blurry by design, right?
Yep.
That feedback loop is essential because you need those early signals from the market to make sure that you factor that into your product design as you plan the next feature or the next new product. And so as we grow the business, we're a tiny little team. I started, we had 3 people and an imaginary friend working on this product. But as we build out the team, we're going to have people that their job is to look at the market and understand competitors and really understand trends and where is the industry going, and really focused on that big picture thought leadership. And then we're going to have people focused inward on the technology side of the house. So how do we take what the market needs, what we're learning from the market, and turn that into personas and user requirements and product plans and product releases and all that cadence that has to happen. So I think that blending of product marketing and product management is critical. And I'm a huge fan of the pragmatic marketing approach because it works. It really does work. A lot of people don't understand it. A lot of CEOs do not understand it. So it's important that the C-suite really embrace it. There's a natural polarity or a tension between product marketing, and product management, right? Because they're different disciplines, but they need to come together so that the last thing you want to do is build the hottest product in the world and you can't sell it because no one cares. Exactly. Right? And so this early signals from the market, what does the market really need? Do you really have product market fit? Those things are probably the most important thing to the business before you deliver any actual code that runs a product.
I think
folks, this is why I'm a huge fan of Mr. Tolle itself. Yeah. It's because I couldn't have said that better myself.
I know. I was just going to say, I think Steve, I don't know if you can tell, but Nisha's face is just lighting up.
I'm like ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Well said. That's awesome.
Steve, we know that you have to jump soon, and so we wanted to close maybe two things. Really, is just one, the dynamics in this industry are changing more today than any other year, I think, with some of the regulations that are coming into play. So what's keeping you up at night? And then on the opposite end, what are you excited about? What's ahead for you personally or the business that you're excited about?
Well, we've embraced the FHIR standard for the movement of structured data out of an electronic health record. And, the federal government is doubling down on that with the rule for payers to use FHIR to do prior authorization. So I think we've made a good bet there. And we're still running into the reality that people don't really understand FHIR, haven't used it much. It's still young, it's still evolving, but we're showing what can be done, which is exciting. So I think we've made some good decisions there. What I'm really excited about, which is what comes next, which is using an AI orchestration platform to pull in the other data that we've got to go find. So today we can get about half the data needed for a clinical study. A lot of labs, vitals, especially for early stage drug trials where they're testing for toxicity and therapeutic dose. They've got to do a lot of lab tests, and they got to do different time points and that kind of thing. But when you get further down the pipe in a trial, you've got to go get data that is stuck in a record somewhere, in a radiology report or a lab result. And that's going to take some, an agent approach using different small and large language models. We are very excited about the potential. I will tell you, we'll never get 100% of the data for a clinical study. I can't stand it when companies say they can get 100% of the data because they're lying. I'll tell you why. No one ever calls their doctor and says, I stopped taking that drug today, right? So in every drug trial, the drug company wants to know, what other medicines are you taking and when did you stop taking them? So they're asking the patient, and the patients are like, well, I think, right? But that's just how it's done. But that's never going to be in the medical record, right? But we're doing some really exciting work in the unstructured data space that maybe will get us up to mid 80s 80% in terms of the data we can get. But the real excitement is the amount of time it'll save. Like if you're going to go out in a patient's record and try to find all the documents that refer to the patient's cancer stage, it's called TNM staging. So it's tumor, lymph node, and metastasis, right? You've got to read every radiology report, every lab report, every doctor's note to get all that. That could take you a long time. A good small language model tuned for that kind of thing could do that very quickly. So just the sheer savings in time and brain damage for these people doing research, I think, is what excites me the most. And then, of course, I'm excited for the next sunny day that we're going to have here in Ireland, because we don't have very many of those. We actually just had 3 weeks of incredible sunshine. Of course, I wasn't here. I was in New York and Boston.
Go figure.
We're getting hit with it too back here, Steve. It's pretty gray and rainy in Vermont, so I hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. This has been really fun to talk to you. Really fun to hear your insights and share your perspective. And we'd love to have you come back at some point in the future and kind of check in on how things are going.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's been fun.
Thanks for joining us.
It was good seeing you.
Thanks for going off script with us. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to follow, rate, and share CMOs Offscript. We'll be back soon with more raw insights and real conversations with the voices shaping modern marketing. Until next time, stay bold.